Hello, my name is Mrs. C. Welcome to Science Stories. Today I'll be reading a book titled Sunshine Makes the Seasons. The author of this book is Franklin M. Branley, and the illustrator is Michael Rex. This book is nonfiction, so it's made up of real facts, but it still has illustrations or drawings. Nonfiction books can have real photographs taken with a camera, or they can have illustrations. Before we begin reading our book, let's look at some of the important vocabulary words that you're going to hear while I'm reading. Sunshine makes the seasons. Here are 6 vocabulary words that it's important to know before we begin. Our first word is sunset. Next, we have length. Third, we have equator. Fourth is axis. Fifth is tilt. And sixth is southern. Let's read the definitions while looking at some pictures to help us understand. Sunset is the time in the evening when the sun disappears or daylight fades. So the sun doesn't really disappear, right? It doesn't go anywhere. The earth is spinning or rotating, so it looks like the sun is disappearing. Right here, we call this the horizon. The sun is going to look like it goes down below that horizon. As it does, the colors in the sky change, and eventually the sky will be dark. Here's another picture. In the beginning of the day, we have what's called sunrise, when the sun rises up over the horizon in the east. In the middle of the day, that sun is very high up in the sky. And by the end of the day, as the sun's going below that horizon, we have sunset. Length. Now, length can mean different things, but in our text, we're going to be talking about the amount of time occupied by something. So you might also hear length of time referred to as the duration. Here is the duration of a trip. The starting time that this bus left was 7 a.m., so 7 in the morning. The finishing time when the bus arrived at school was 8 a.m. or 8 in the morning. That means the length of time or the duration for that trip was 1 hour from 7 until 8 a.m. Some other words you might hear that mean the same thing or are synonyms for length of time are duration, time, while, spell, stretch, stint, span, season, interval, and period. All of those words can be used when we're describing the length of time that it takes to do something. Our third vocabulary word is equator. The equator is an imaginary line. That means a line that's not really there, that's drawn around the Earth equally distant from both poles. So up here at the top, we have our North Pole. Down here at the bottom, we have our South Pole. And here's this imaginary line right in the middle called the equator. Here's where we live in Florida. We're pretty close to the equator, right? But it's still further south. It's still further south than we are. Axis is also an imaginary line. So again, it's not really there. An axis is an imaginary straight line in which something rotates or spins. So in this picture, this axis is straight up and down, right? It's going up and down, perfectly split in the middle. The Earth's axis is at a tilt of 23.5 degrees. So it is not a straight line. It looks more like this. Now, again, this is imaginary, so there's not really a line cutting right down the Earth, but it helps us see the axis in which the Earth is tilted. That brings us to our next word, tilt. Tilt is a sloping position or movement, so you could even tilt your body if you wanted to. These trains are tilted over. You can see they're both leaning over. And look at this house. This crazy house is tilted over as well. You can see it's not straight across. It's tilted at an angle. Our last word is southern. So when I said we are not quite as far south as the equator, that means we weren't far as far down as the equator was. So here's a compass rose. North points upward, south points downward. So if something is southern, that means it's situated in the south. South is opposite of north. So here's Florida. Sometimes people will say, we live in the south. That's true, we do. We live in the south or southern part of the United States. Here's our country, the United States. But look at this map of the world. This is the northern hemisphere. This is above the equator. This is the southern hemisphere. This is below the equator. We live in Florida. So even though we live in the south part of the United States, we're still in the northern hemisphere. So we're still north of the equator. All right, let's go ahead and start reading our book. As I read, listen and see if you hear any of those vocabulary words we just learned about. Sunshine makes the seasons. Here's our author again who wrote the words, Franklin M. Branley, and our illustrator who drew these beautiful pictures, Michael Rex. Sunshine warms the earth. If the sun stopped shining, the earth would get colder and colder. We would freeze. The whole earth would freeze. So it wouldn't be like winter. It'd be completely frozen. The sun shines all through the year, but we are warmer in the summer than in the winter. The amount of sunshine makes the difference. The earth spins around or rotates once in 24 hours. That's why we have day and night. When we're on the sun side of the earth, there is daylight. As the earth rotates, we turn away from the sun. There is sunset and then night. So like I said, the sun doesn't really disappear, right? We just don't see it because we are on this side. After we rotate and we spin around, we're not facing the sun anymore at nighttime. At the same time that the earth spins, it also goes around the sun. The earth takes a year to make one trip around the sun. That's why we have 365 days every year. That's how long it takes. During a year, the length of our day changes. In winter, the days are short. It may be dark by the time you get home from school. It is cold because we don't get many hours of sunshine. As we move into spring, days become a bit longer. By summer, they're even longer. The days may be so long that it's still light when you go to bed. It is warm because we get many hours of sunshine. After the long days of summer, the days begin to get shorter and cooler. It is fall and time to go back to school. All through the year, the earth has been rotating once in 24 hours. Remember, that's when we're spinning around and turning. It gives us day and night. And all through the year, the lengths of darkness and daylight have been changing. The seasons have been changing too. So remember, it said when it's warmer, that's because the length of time, the amount of sunshine we're getting is longer. When it gets colder, that's because the length of time or the amount of sunshine gets shorter. You can see the reason for these changes by using an orange for the earth, a pencil, and a flashlight. Push a pencil through the orange from top to bottom. So you can actually try this at home if you want to. The top is the North Pole. You can mark it with an N. The bottom is the South Pole. You can mark it with an S. Using a marking pen, draw a line around the orange halfway between the poles. Do you remember what this is called? That imaginary line? That's the equator. Stick a pin in the orange about halfway between the equator and the North Pole. Imagine this is where you live. So we might be a little further down, but that's pretty close to where we are too. Turn the pencil and the orange. The pencil is the axis of the orange. So right now they're holding it straight up and down. But remember, Earth's axis, it's not straight up and down like this. The Earth also has an axis. There is nothing like a pencil through the Earth, but the Earth spins as though there were something like a pencil running from pole to pole. Hold the axis of the orange straight up and down. In a darkened room, have someone shine a flashlight on the orange. So see, she's still holding that orange straight up and down. The light is supposed to be the sun. The part of the orange toward the flashlight is in daylight. The other half is in darkness. Daylight falls on the North Pole and also the South Pole, even when you spin the orange. So if you were spinning this in your hand, turning it around and around, the sunlight would stay the same from top to bottom, and the darkness would stay the same from top to bottom. Now walk around the flashlight. Walk in a circle. Keep the light shining on the orange. That would be the same as the Earth going around the sun. It would be a year. Keep the axis straight up and down. So she still has her orange with her pencil straight up and down. She's walking around the flashlight, which is the sun. Wherever you are as you circle the flashlight, the orange is lighted from pole to pole. All through the year and all over the earth, days and nights would be the same length. There would be no change in seasons. But we know that does not happen on Earth. The days get shorter and then longer as the Earth goes around the sun. The winter changes to summer. It's because the axis of the Earth is not straight up and down. It's tilted. Remember I said you can tilt anything. You can tilt your head, you can tilt your whole body. The Earth is tilted 23.5 degrees. Let's experiment with the orange again. This time, tilt the axis the way it is tilted in the picture. That's the way the Earth's axis is tilted. Hold the orange so the North Pole is tilted away from the flashlight. Turn the orange all the way around, and you will see that the pin is in the light only a short time. The northern half of the Earth has short days and long nights. Sunlight does not fall on the North Pole. The North Pole has its long winter night. It is winter, and it is cold. Keep the axis of the orange tilted in the same direction and go part way around the flashlight. Now the light falls on both poles. It is springtime in the north and days are getting longer. Without changing the tilt of the axis, move until you are halfway around the flashlight from where you started. Soon, the North Pole will be tilted toward the light. It is summer. As you turn the orange, the pin in the light has longer than it is in the dark. The northern half of the Earth has long days and short nights. The North Pole has its long summer day. It is summer and it is warm. Keep moving around the flashlight. Remember, always keep the orange tilted in the same direction. You'll see that once again light falls on both the North Pole and the South Pole of the orange. It is fall in the north. The days are getting shorter and cooler too. Keep moving around and you come back to winter. So you can see that the light that's shining on the earth, or the orange, if you do this experiment that you're holding, how much of the orange is lit up will change because of that tilt. They happen because sunshine makes the seasons and because the axis of the earth is tilted. The southern half of the earth has seasons too. They are the opposite of our seasons. When it is summer and we are going to the beach, people in the southern half of the earth have winter. They are skating and skiing. Good afternoon. Sure is a beautiful day. Look, they're saying that even though it's dark outside. The North Pole and South Pole also have seasons. Their winters are cold and dark. The sun does not rise every day. It is dark all winter long. So this actually is their daytime. Isn't that crazy? I'm tired. It's way past my bedtime. Look at that sun. During summer at the poles, the sun does not set every day. So for several weeks, there is no night. So even though it's nighttime and they should be sleeping, that sun is still up. Seasons at the poles are opposite. When the North Pole has winter, the South Pole has summer. 6 months later, when it is winter at the South Pole, it is summer at the North Pole. Along the equator, it is warm all the time. The temperature stays about the same all through the year. You can see why if you experiment with the orange. Move the pin to the equator. Remember that imaginary line in the middle. Watch the pin to see what happens as you go through the year. You'll see that day and night are just about the same length in the summer and winter, spring and fall. That's good if you like warm weather all the time, but it's also nice to see snow once in a while, to see the flowers and birds of springtime, to go swimming in summer, and to have pumpkins in the fall. Year after year, the days change, and so do the seasons. We have winter, spring, summer, and fall because the sun warms the earth and because the axis of the earth is tilted. So that's why we're in Florida. We're not right on the equator, but we're really close. That's why Florida doesn't get snow like some of our further northern states do. But we do have chilly winters, but not as cold as other places. That's because we're closer to the equator, but we're not close enough to stay super hot all year round. All right, I hope you enjoyed this story and feel like you learned a lot. I will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.